Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at pitching for today, the 10th of April. We do have just a 5 game slate in front of us today. Not much to look into. Not the greatest of pitchers overall. It's just a blah slate. Actually debated not putting out a video today, but the goal is to get you one basically every day of the season. I may take a random day off here or there, but we're just 2 weeks into the season, so I might as well keep it going. I have not really looked at anything, so this look at the prop numbers and all that stuff will be my first venture onto this slate. So we will look at them together for the first time. A reminder that this is a first look video. I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you play on FanDuel, I would cut my pool in half. Maybe not a half today because we don't have that many options, but generally pricing isn't quite as tight. You can get the stacks that you want and still end up with a top tier-ish pitcher. The only problem is we do not have any top tier-ish pitchers on this slate. Would have been interesting if they would have just included the Philadelphia Atlanta game for all day action, even though that game does have some weather concerns, as we see here on our weather station. But looking at the 5 games for us, we do have 2 games in the 40s, potentially creating some chalk, especially in that Cleveland Chicago game. People just don't want to take pitching against Boston. Shout out to Kevin Gossman last night and his helping me take down some money going into the weekend. It's always a great thing to see. But as we see, Tampa Bay game as the best hitting environment in general. Obviously, Coors, Colorado, going to be a great spot. But that LA Tampa Bay game, very intriguing because I'd say 2 of the better pitchers on the slate are in that game. So what do? We do know that the wind is going to be blowing out to right. At least I see that on Ballpark Pal. It's left to right here. It might shift during the game. Looking at Ballpark Pal on another screen. So it does look like it does shift in game a little bit. And we know that it's a shorter porch to right field in that minor league ballpark that they are playing in. So there are some questions here with Soriano and Vittel. But let's look at the prop numbers to get an idea of what we're looking at. We do have to kind of lower our expectations on this particular slate. It is just gross. I think the chalkiest pitchers probably end up being Gavin Williams and Jonathan Cannon in that game. Uh, Game total of just 7. Juice is on the over, but still just 7. It's 1 run clear of the next highest, run and a half or more of the other 3. Kevin Williams, a minus 250 favorite, strongest on the slate. We obviously know the White Sox are not good. It is what it is. But maybe Jonathan Cannon is an option. We have seen Cleveland strike out a little bit more than we are used to early on in the season. Cannon was solid against the Angels to start the season, struggled mightily against Detroit in his last start. Walks have been a big issue. Strikeouts haven't really been there. But obviously we get such a great pitching environment that I am probably going to have to get overweight on Cannon, which might be difficult. I haven't seen any ownership projections, so I'm really curious to see how many people are actually click his name. They will definitely be going to Gavin Williams, even though he has not looked great to begin the season. Strikeouts just aren't there yet. He's just a guy that should get some more strikeouts. He's starting to remind me a lot of Lance Lynn, and I'm not sure that that's a great thing for him. Was decent in his first start, just no strikeouts, but you're not going to get that against Kansas City all that much. The Angels that start a little rough. Um, he has just been in the mid 70s for pitch count as well, so that is another worry. They might just limit him early season to 80 or under. I'm not really sure what their plans are, um, but there is some worries with that one. Um, kind of going into some of the props from that game. Gavin's K prop at 6.5 with juice on the under. The strongest K prop on the slate, which is kind of shocking to me. Cannon's just 3.5, juices on the over, which is the second lowest K prop on this particular slate. Looking at some of the other games here, Waka 4.5, juices on the over. Probably going to be a steady option. We know that Minnesota team has struggled offensively. Certainly going to be in play. Not really going to be interested in Coors Field pitching, even though on this particular slate maybe we should be. Chris Bassett 5.5, juices on the over. That's a strong K prop. It's number two on this particular slate. It says quite a bit. That matchup between Littell and Soriano. Littell 5.5, juices on the under. Soriano 4.5, juices on the over. Very similar props at this point, but again, we do worry about offense in that ballpark. To record the win, been utilizing this stat quite a bit more, or this prop, not really a stat, but just to get an idea of you know length as far as starting pitcher, etc. As we see, Gavin Williams the favorite at plus 135. Chris Bassett right behind him at plus 140. Soriano plus 165 in this one. I would have thought that Littell was in a better spot, but knowing that he is more of a fly ball pitcher from, I guess, my memory bank, that probably makes sense considering this ballpark and the potential for wind to be blowing out as the game progresses. Ober, despite being an underdog, is favored over Waka to get the W. Obviously, like I mentioned, of course, not really interested there. Walker Bueller, no thanks at this point. Jonathan Cannon, plus 340. It's not a great number for us. But I do think because of the environment, he is certainly in play. Earn run prop. Gavin Williams under 1.5. Definitely going to stand out. Soriano's at 1.5, but he's on the over. I mean, Bassett's at 2.5. Walker Bueller's even at 2.5. Basically, a pick 'em. Quinn Priester's at 2.5 with juice on the under slightly. That's kind of shocking for me a little bit. Ober and Waka both at 2.5. Juices on the under for both. So I guess we probably see some some pitching scores today. And when I say scores, I don't mean guys are going to put up 25 to 30. I think we could see a bunch of these guys finish in the 14 to 18 range on this particular slate. And as a guy that's big on pitching, that absolutely drives me nuts. I will be honest. Um, Taking a look at some outs recorded here gives us an idea of how deep into games we can expect guys to go. Uh, Big prop to look at early in the season as we just aren't completely sure how stretched out some of these guys are going to be. Um, this gives us an idea. Chris Bassett over 17.5. Walker's over 17.5. Littell's over 17.5. Strong numbers. Bassett being the strongest on the over. Ober, Soriano 16.5. Basically pick'ems right there. And then we get Gavin Williams under 15.5. So basically a 5 inning performance from Gavin Williams at his chalkiness, most likely. That's a little worrisome. Uh, Makes me kind of want to consider going underweight, and I'm not really an underweight guy. I'm either fading or I'm going overweight on pretty much every pitcher. But there's some things here that are making me think maybe we just go underweight and he isn't dominant and we get some leverage that way. It'll be interesting to see how the morning shakes out for me. But Jonathan Cannon strongly over 14.5, so basically a 5 inning guy as well. Not interested in Feltner at all. Ober, yeah, that 16 and a half. He does get into some trouble, which caused, some obviously some big innings to happen. Bueller, basically a 5 inning guy without strikeout numbers. It's going to be a guy that I think we just have to avoid. At least I personally will be. Not sure if anybody else in the industry is going to be on somebody like Walker Bueller, even though he is a slight favorite. Game total of 8.5, which felt a little high with juice on the over, considering it's going to be in the low 40s. Obviously, the wind's slightly blowing out to center, but anything in the single digits wind for me just doesn't matter. So, seeing that it's going to be in the low 40s, I generally want to lean towards pitching. However, Walker Buehler just has not been spectacular. He had some solid performances in the spring, if I remember correctly, but to be in the season, just allowing a ton of base hits. Home runs have been an issue. Strikeouts haven't been there. Uh, 83 is his pitch total max so far through 2 starts. Not really pushing him, obviously. Um, I would think as the season goes on, he does get pushed a little farther, but he needs to show a little bit more. So I'm not really sure that I'm going to end up on Walker Bueller at this point. Michael Walker probably going to make it into my pool. Was solid enough against Cleveland. Only he just racked up walks, and that's a big issue. Not great against Baltimore, but obviously Baltimore a difficult offense. Low 90s in the pitch count, so we should be fine for just about anything here. And we just keep picking on Minnesota right now with how that offense is performing. So Walker definitely somebody I want to expose myself to in large field stuff. Bailey Ober, like I mentioned, bounced back a little bit last game. Did give up another home run. Home runs can be an issue. Racked up pitch count, so he wasn't able to qualify for the W. There's just a ton of volatility with Bailey Ober. I'm curious to see what his ownership percentage is going to be. If it's super high, which I don't see it being, definitely want to go underweight. If it's super low, based on Kansas City isn't a huge strikeout upside, team. Maybe I do need to go overweight on him and just hope we get the good side of over on this particular slate. But I'm not in love with the spot. Chris Bassett, got to go there the way that he started the season against Baltimore and the Mets. Just absolutely dominant in both starts. 16 Ks already. We just saw Gausman absolutely dominate Boston, which, again, I'm very thankful for. Uh, Gonna temper my expectations a little bit with Bassett. I don't see him continuing uh, the the dominant performances, but we do ride it while it's hot, especially because the weather's going to be super cold there. So uh, definitely need to consider him. Soriano, dominant to be in the season, but that was against the White Sox. Struggled with home runs against Cleveland, but racked up strikeouts. Uh, the one thing with Tampa Bay, the overall lineup for Tampa Bay is weaker. I'm just not. I don't know what their K rate is against right-handed pitching off the top of my head, but I know that they do have some weakness in that particular lineup. Littell, a 7 inning guy the last time out, but just didn't pick up strikeouts. I think he kind of fell apart later, giving up 5 runs. Dominated Colorado to begin the season. Definitely some upside here. He does give up some fly balls. Probably only going to stay in the 80s for pitch count, but he did go 7 innings. So maybe there is a 90 pitch performance out of him. Some of the Angels' bats kind of overachieving to begin the season, so there is upside with Littell. So I will be utilizing him. But there we have it. There's our first look at pitching. I know it's a little later in the morning, but if you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us and get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I will put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's RAZ, for 10% off monthly. And as always, best of luck, everybody.